been able to find us on YouTube, we are live now. I want to say it's a privilege and an honor to be here with Suresh, who's the head of Dhyan Foundation UK, and Poonam, who's an environmental publisher and a writer. We need more such people in the world. We need to start hundreds of dialogues on environment. We need, one of the greatest things, Poonam, is just to create awareness. Isn't it ironic that apart from tiny changes in your own life, you really need to create awareness, because little, very tiny changes in our everyday life can, bring that one change in the world, which can save us from the catastrophic global warming and irreversible environmental damage that we are seeing has caused a pandemic like COVID, because before this in our lifetimes, we hadn't even envisaged such a situation. And do you realize that now everyone's talking of more pandemics? So something that we weren't acquainted with, we are actually having to, acclimatize to, and it's being called the new normal. So what are my thoughts, Poonam? They are that, yes, I have been helping a lot of people who've had, who've suffered with COVID. I do want to say, while it is bad, different countries have had it bad all over the world. So the first thing I want to record is India's handling it well. While the press goes amok, blemishing various countries, I want to say it's a pandemic all over the world, and we're all grappling with it as best as we can. So let's be positive. Let's try and bring change. Today's conversation is about change. As the world grapples with not only COVID, but even extreme weather events, intense cyclones. Poonam, I in Bombay have just faced a terrible cyclone. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but is it Tukate, something like that. So it actually impacted my own home. I'm on an 18th floor high rise, and we had water coming in, huge amounts of water, which I had to stand and dredge. We've never had cyclones in Bombay. Why is this happening? The Arabian Sea, the basin has been affected most. It's impacted most of all among all the oceans in the world because of heat currents, as well as the rising temperature of the sea. You do know that it's the hottest decade recorded ever, this decade. So we can actually see change around us, wildfires, droughts. Now they are expecting another cyclone in the east coast, Suresh, of India. Yeah. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay, so now the government, poor Prime Minister Modi is now grappling with the East Coast, and they are readying up. They've no sooner, had to deal with the catastrophe in the West Coast that they are now dealing with. So we can see how it's impacting our everyday lives. Until just last year, Suresh and Poonam, it was something in the faraway future. People were speaking of 2050, when there would be an increase in population of the world to 10 billion, and there would be catastrophic changes. But we are seeing bird species, animal species dying. So when you ask me what am I seeing? I'm seeing real changes right here. Until we, like for instance, the cyclone in Bombay, until we start saving the mangroves and replanting. Mangroves act like a buffer to cyclones. Until we start working on and of course, we'll come to that later, what can we do to mitigate? If you're just asking me about my impressions over the COVID period, my impressions are that we need to bring drastic change. We need to start making changes, and I'm going to discuss those changes when Poonam, addresses them with me. But I think Antonio Guterres was right when he said 2021 is a year of action. And we need to start taking action now. Countries need to commit to zero emissions right now, not by 2050. We have to start now. And, the extreme weather changes of last year, affecting and destroying livelihoods, which I've seen in front of my very eyes, forcing millions from their homes. Lots of people have been driven out of their homes. We need to act now, and which is the name of my foundation, which of course I'll talk about later. My time is running out. We need to tackle this crisis immediately and put, brakes on relentless misuse of plastic and various other problems. We are on the verge of an abyss. And climate disruption is not something, that we are going to look at in some distant future. You know that one of the reasons for pandemics, correct me if I'm wrong, Suresh, is the melting of the ice caps, because they are bringing out various different viruses and bacteria that human beings aren't acquainted with. And we have no time to waste. The UN report submitted in 2020 is, that this is the hottest year ever. And greenhouse gases have, increased despite the pandemic. The pandemic brought such a slowdown to air flights, to travel, to pollution. We saw animals coming out. But no, it hasn't stopped or mitigated global warming. And marine life and ocean life is endangered. So yeah, Poonam, I'm actually seeing all this. There was a dolphin washed. I'm at the shore. I'm at the seashore. I stay at the shore. And we saw a beached dolphin just last week. So when you ask me what am I seeing, I'm seeing it all around me. And I'm hoping that others are, seeing it around them and that they're going to bring change.
Thank you so much, Nisha. Thanks for giving your insights. So coming to you, Suresh, as you know, we've always worshipped and protected Mother Cow. Our history is evident of the same. Religions and cultures across the globe have emphasized upon serving the cow. And be it a Hindu or a Muslim ruler or a Sikh ruler, they have always, protected and nurtured cow. But even though all this is there, our generation seem to be ignorant about it. So if you could, today use this platform and tell us, what is the importance of cow and how important it was and it is, and what are the repercussions we could have if we don't, take care of our cow and, of course, other animals. So
yeah, no, you raised some interesting questions there, Poonam. And Nisha, I also want to come back to some of the points you mentioned also, so we can certainly talk about that too. But you're right. I mean, the cow has, the people have paid reverence to the cow across many, many cultures, not just in India. There have been many, many examples, across the world. Just to cite a few examples, for example, like King David, who was the Israelite king, one of his descendants, his son of Hezroth, I think, his son was called Ram, and
Yes.
he used to worship the cow, right? And he was a Goraj. So, this is going back thousands of years. If you look at the Old Testament, for example, right? Even in the Old Testament, for example, they called out about, killing cows and that it should not be done. I'm just going to quote just a quick line from one of the chapters of the Old Testament, right? You have to excuse, this is in Old English, so I'm not sure if I'll get it correct, but maybe we can work it out.
But it's really interesting, Suresh. It's
Pardon
really
me?
I said
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. I think it's
because,
when we start
I've
looking.
been going to Israel for the last several years, and you're right, Ram is actually a common name there.
Yeah, exactly,
And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and whatever the English, we're interested in what you're going to read.
Yeah, so maybe you can translate it for me. He that killeth the ox is as he killeth the man. Now, when I read that statement, I thought, wow, that is such a profound thing. They are actually, in those days, thousands of years ago, elevating the cow at the same level as man. I mean, there has to be a certain level of higher consciousness that you can even make that kind of statement, because no one will think that today. Right now, if you look at it, humanity or humans are at the top of the pyramid, right? Animals are below that. And then our nature, our rivers, our forests, and everything else is at the bottom of the pyramid. So that's how the world is today. But yet, in those barbaric times, that they could even make that kind of statement. So, when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive. So, there are many other examples, even in the Mughal era, Emperor Humayun, he did not eat beef. And he, in fact, issued an edict which said that there should be no cow slaughter. Even in the Quran, they advise that you should not eat the meat of a cow since it can invite various diseases. We can talk on the health side because of, when cows are traumatized or stressed, they release all sorts of toxins and hormones, which ends up in the meat that gets eaten or even in the milk. So, even in the Quran, it is put there. So, if you just look at what other cultures were saying across the world, they had paid such a high reverence to the cow. But of course, it is forgotten, right? It's definitely forgotten. Now, coming to India, for example, if you look at the, even something like the Indus Saraswati excavations, the seals that they had there had, they had symbols of bulls and cows, right? And
Yes.
cow was always compared, the mother in our culture, right? The oldest surviving culture, so it's always been there. Whether you look at the scriptures, whether you look in the Rig Veda or the Atharva Veda, there are many, many examples, right? In the Atharva Veda, they call.
And it's the most docile of animals that we know of.
This is, yes, exactly. It's very, very docile.
And Suresh, am I right that every part, including the waste that, a cow gives out is useful to mankind?
Yeah.
It is, but we should
medicinal,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the milk.
There are certain Ayurvedic institutes that are bottling, cow urine, which is supposed to be helping with the COVID situation.
Okay, is it? Yeah, I'm sure that the West
I've
will
heard
probably
of that.
patent
Yeah.
it. Yeah. But the
whatever humanity eats now is directly impacting the universe as we know it. Yeah. And it's not going to be what we know it anymore if we continue with this rampage. And eating meat, I think, is one of the most harmful because of the 60% of agricultural greenhouse gases that are being emitted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly that. Even eating beef, has lots of side effects in terms of colon cancer, it releases lots of. You must understand that a cow is a very highly sensitive animal. It is one of the most. Its emotional state is one of the most highest in the animal kingdom. So it senses when there is pain or there is trauma long before it happens. So it senses long before it's going to get slaughtered. And the kind of toxins and hormones that are released are actually not good for the body. And that is also true. Not even when a cow is to be slaughtered. Even taking a calf away from a mother, creates a lot of distress, and that also affects. So it is certainly even in our own scriptures there are many examples of looking after the cow. Even in the Mahabharata, where Bhishma is talking to Yudhishthira, he gives advice and explaining on how the highest form of charity that you can do is to gift a cow. If you can't even gift a cow, you can even feed a cow. You can nurture a cow, and that's what we do in Down Foundation. We have people who do that all the time. So Poonam, I wanted to come to that last point you had made, because you had made a point which I thought was kind of important, which is, why is our, why are people ignorant about this? Right? Why is it that people are ignorant about the history of the cow across the world? Why are people ignorant about what the scriptures say? The problem we have is that we have people who are taking incorrectly translating some of the things which are written in the Vedas, and they're trying to create a narrative which says that Brahmins eat beef, or that cow slaughter was permissible, and all of this is completely incorrect. So we have the youth who are actually quite ignorant because they get their stuff from Wikipedia or WhatsApp, and they get the wrong information, and there is nothing there.
This dialogue is larger than just Brahmins or the Vedas or the Bible or the Quran. Yes. This is about the environment, which is absolutely collapsing around us if we don't stop animal husbandry. Because if you look at environment, it's way beyond religion, and it's way beyond just, looking at any one, because, one does receive criticism for, it becoming, this is more than just a communal conversation. It's about planet Earth that's disintegrating if we don't move towards a plant-based, the implications for the topsoil, pollution, greenhouse gases, deforestation, They are large, they are very far-reaching implications which go beyond a certain community or a certain country. For instance, you know, I mean, just something as simple as palm oil. It's used in everything from bread to even just, you know, ice cream. And palm oil, you know, using palm oil is damaging the Sumatran rainforests.
Yeah.
And if you look at something like sugarcane fertilizers, it's ruining the Great Barrier Reef.
You're right. You're right.
Community,
yeah.
You know, as a global community, animal husbandry, beef is one of the highest emissions of methane known to man.
And also water, right? Also the amount of water that is required, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, you know, Suresh, it's no longer about 2040 and 2050. It's about now. So this, you know, conversations like this, it's the most important thing, because lots of us, you know, just look at me. I mean, just 5 years ago, I myself was not aware. So a plant.
But why is that? Why do you think our generation or the younger generation are so ignorant about all these things? Because these things are not new. I mean, it has taken something like the COVID for us to probably reach out and understand what's going on. But
the reason I think, Suresh, is that there needs to be much more dialogue. This needs to be literally subjects taught at schools. You know, little plant, you know, tree planting drives need to be an extracurricular activity for children and adults. I think awareness needs to be trendy. I also feel that there should be legal accountability enforced by governments for wrong practices. I feel people must understand that a plant-based diet also means a very healthy, slim, and attractive life ahead for you. So, you know, my parents would always say, when you tell somebody what's in it for them, they probably understand more acutely how important it is. So a plant-based diet is also very important to avert the big C, which is cancer, not only COVID. And a plant-based diet keeps you way healthier, more energetic, way more quick in the brain. And there's so much availability these days. You know, Suresh, I actually saw a vegetarian fish the other day. You know, it was created with soya.
It's very, very popular in the UK now. You know, these vegan burgers and vegan fish burgers, all sorts of things. You know, but then it's a good. You're right. I think, you know, awareness, and I like the idea of getting children to plant trees. I think, you know, this young, and we do this in Down Foundation. We try and sensitize children to have a better connection to animals, because at least here in the UK, I think generally, you know, having animals, keeping them in their homes, going for walks in nature, taking their pets with them, it seems to be much more ingrained in the culture. It's just my own observation. I think there are people who are animal lovers, I think, in India, but also people, you know, in a colony, if there is a stray dog, they're more worried about kicking the dog out rather than thinking about feeding that stray dog. So this idea of how you sensitize and get the younger generation to, you know, plant trees and make connection with nature, visit a Goshala, go and feed an animal, and just, you know, that kind of, it should not be just something bookish. It has to be something much more physical. It's more about being in the world. So I think those are kind of, you know, those are good ideas. How do we, you know, get people more involved and, you know, connect with nature, connect with animals, and do that at a much younger age? You know, I think, you know, awareness is definitely something that we can do in our schools, definitely. You know, to give you an example, the first slaughterhouse arrived in India in the 1700s, right? It was Robert Clive. And, you know, it was an absolute killing machine. It killed like 30,000 animals a day. Can you imagine how much blood would have ended up on the lands of Bengal? And ironically, you know, 7-8 years later, there was a famine in Bengal, and millions died. And Robert Clive became an opium addict, and, you know, he ended up killing himself. So that's kind of like the flip side of how what happens when you don't nurture a cow. When you don't look after it. So I think, you know, there are things like that, for example, that certainly have led to ignorance. I think, you know, we don't know what our culture used to be like. And so it's good, coming back to plant-based diets, understanding the impact on our environment. I definitely agree. I think there is a slowly wave of people realizing this. And these aren't new things. The thing that irritates me more than anything else is that, these may be fads or things that have come from the West, but we have always had it. We have had all these things all the time. And that's the thing, is that we don't need validation from anybody else. We can just look at our own history and see that we already figured this out. We just forgot about it, Sorry, Poonam, a long answer, but I hope that gets the conversation going.
In fact, I would like to add a couple of things here. In fact, we were the first civilized economy in the world. And also, I want to add one thing. Yeah, of course, the meat and all beef is very unhealthy, and slaughtering is. But yes, if a cow is happy and he's, she's given her share of milk to the calf, so having cow's milk and ghee is, the kind of energy and the kind of nurturing you get, you can't compare it with others. So, apart from this, we should also teach that how to nurture a cow, how to make sure that she's a happy cow, the calf has taken his share, and the rest you should consume it, because like Nisha just said, even the cow's urine and cow dung is also has so many benefits. So just imagine how much beneficial is a cow's milk and ghee. When we do Vedic yagyas, Nisha, ghee is an essential part of a yagya. But then you have to make sure that this ghee has come from a cow who's been nurtured properly and who's a happy cow. So these are things maybe, next time we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
So now, Nisha, coming back to you again, as a leading celebrity of India, what, according to you, are some of the habits that could be changed to help the country work towards the environment and protect the environment?
There are some, before I get into this, it's a longish answer, which I'm going to make as peppy and fast as I can.
Yeah.
I don't want this to become a monotonous thing for the viewers. But I do want to say, Suresh, hearkening back to what you said, Indians don't kick out stray dogs. In fact, they feed them, nurture them. The large heart, the largest of Indians, is an internationally acclaimed asset, where I have seen the poorest of poor actually feed their dogs, even if they don't have enough to eat. So they adopt dogs, they adopt cats, they look after animals. And one of the missions, apart from environment for me, is to change the negative dialogue against India by Indians itself. India is one of the most generous and warm and kind and hospitable countries in the world. So guys, please come to India and we'll show you our hospitality. But answering Poonam's question, I think the first and most important thing is to use energy wisely, Poonam. We need to use clean energy as far as possible. And a little trend in India is that a lot of the more affluent people have holiday homes. Now, one of the things you can do in your holiday homes is use, sustainable energy. Use solar panels, use wind energy, and charge your house up with renewables. We need to transition to less carbon-intensive fuel. We need to have more sustainable energy systems, and it needs to become a way of life in the rural areas of India too, and all over the world. Solar, wind, hydro, even biofuels are the need of the hour. The second thing, which is as important, if not more, is what Suresh and Poonam spoke of, and that is eat wisely for climate change, keeping climate change in your heart. What do you eat? Vegetables, and more vegetables. And use the cow sensitively. Do not extract, gallons of milk in a cruel and unfeeling way. You even need to mitigate how you get that ghee and how you get that milk. With the, like I said earlier, with the global population projected at 10 million by as early as 2050, food is going to become one of the most important ways that you either damage or help the environment, with huge implications for topsoil, pollution, deforestation, and greenhouse gases. As far as I'm concerned, meat consumption is harakiri for Mother Earth. Climate conversations are one of the most important things. Suresh asked me, why is the world not informed? Why do people ask ignorant questions? Why are they not aware? Because this conversation has to become global, and countries have to collaborate with each other. And like I said, there has to be very strict legal action against people violating actions which go against the climate and exacerbate global warming. One of the most important things you can do in your own houses is to stop using one-use plastic. We all know this, but have we stopped? No, we haven't. Are we carrying a little steel flask around to refill our water bottles? No, we aren't. We are still buying mineral, so-called quote-unquote mineral water. Do you know that billions of particles of plastic waste choke our oceans, choke our marine life, and our lakes, and our rivers? And I live on the seashore, as I told you, and I can actually see the damage. This cyclone I just spoke of, there was so much waste floating. It had just churned itself out of the ocean and come out. And all this
microplastic, given it back.
Absolutely. It regurgitated it back. And this microplastic, in the form of waste, piles up not only in the land, but ends up in animal stomachs, and including our own stomachs. So it's very toxic. It's what's caused disease, cancer, pandemics. But on a very everyday level, things like using tea bags as against just using a spoon of tea. It's a small way in which you can mitigate waste. And of course, Poonam, I mean, my mantra. It's consume less and waste less. It's no longer trendy to wear a new outfit every day. You reuse, recycle, mend, darn. That's what our grandparents did. We have to incorporate that in our everyday lives. The mantra should be recycle, reuse, renew, waste management, which is refuse, regift, recover, and repair. Another very tiny thing you could do to bring change is stop using, discarding and using plastic toothbrushes. Yes, going back to the bamboo toothbrush is way more environment friendly. It's a very little change. But imagine the thousands of toothbrushes, the millions of toothbrushes, a 7 billion population in the world contributes to waste. So these are very tiny little things. Use your cycle to work. Use public transport. I think public transport is very, when I came back, I studied in Paris. When I came back to India, and I said, I'm going to take the train to save time to downtown. I was at that time in the suburbs. And I was looked down upon. I mean, they said, oh my God, people like us don't use public transport, Nisha JamVwal. Well, I must tell you, it's very trendy to use public transport. It not only saves time, it saves huge amounts of energy, segways, cycles, carpooling. These are very important things. But, the more cars you buy, the more they add to emissions. These are very small, little, tiny changes that we can make in our everyday lives. We have to go back to the basics, hand washing clothes in cool water, and not using a dryer, hang dry your clothes as far as possible. And of course, you all know, unplug your computer, put off your plugs, especially when you're traveling for holidays. Shut your entire, your mains in your house. Keep your, that in Switzerland, all ACs are at 25 degrees and they don't have ACs in many places. Try to make your house, I'm an architect, for those uninitiated, a home that is built and designed for insulation against the heat and the cold is very energy efficient. Opt for fans as opposed to ACs, air conditioners, and buy green friendly appliances. Try not to use appliances that are outdated in terms of energy efficiency. These are little changes you can make that come on the top of my head. Like I said, I don't want to drone on, but I do want you to help me spread all these messages. They are important. We need to educate our youngsters. We need to educate people who are, not educated or not initiated, and that's the beginning of change.
Thank you so much, Nisha. And lovely initiatives you said. They're very simple, and I think all of us can try adopting this in our everyday lives. And if you see in our ancient civilization and our ancestors, they used to live such an environment-friendly life in sync with nature. All these practices, what you said, now we need to come back to. They've been practiced earlier. So it's only the over consumerism and the kind of Western influence, you could say, or whatever, the younger generation, we are so much into it. Like you said, when you came back to from Paris, you when you said you want to use local trains, you were looked down upon. So this attitude needs to be changed. In fact, it's changing in the West. So now we need to get back to our basics again. So coming back to you, Suresh, there's one thing which is coming in my mind is, like, you certainly can't have cow as a pet, but there are a lot of ways how you can help nurture a cow, how you can adopt a cow, and how you can do your bit to see to it that eventually all the cows which are on our streets, or they're all nurtured, and so that ultimately the milk you get from them is healthy. And of course, it's like, if we nurture the cow and the environment, they are in turn going to nurture us only. So if you could just throw some light on it, how we can get involved in this.
Yeah. So I mean, the first point was that you said why you can't keep a cow as a pet. I guess in the earlier generations, if we spoke to our grandparents or great grandparents, they probably kept a cow at home, and the first meal would have gone to the cow first before it went to the rest of the family. Of course, now we live in big cities and we live in apartments, so it may not be so possible. And so, how can people connect and reconnect? By the way, just on that point, there's a certain breed called the Brahman breed, which has got exported from India to Australia, to some parts of Africa and even America. It's actually it's a pure breed, the 3 Indian breeds, the Bos Indicus breed, and they actually have them. Can you imagine it? They actually keep them as pets, and they're not cheap. You're talking about like $5,000 or $10,000 for this Indian breed. Now, some are keeping it. They're keeping it because it has certain qualities. Maybe they want to keep them as pets. Some are obviously thinking more in terms of better yield of milk or tastier meat. But I just thought I'd just throw that point, because you made me think when you said, why can't you keep a cow as a pet? There are people that do that in Australia and America. Coming back to your question on how you can nurture a cow. So the thing you should understand is that, when I was saying earlier, is that it's a symbol of abundance and prosperity. So what I mean by that is, it's not just about all of the, the net effects from the cow products, right? Whether that's the ghee or the milk, which are very important points, right? Or the urine, which can act as fertilizer or can act as an antiseptic in medicine. So those are some of the products. There's something more mysterious about the cow, and the abundance and prosperity is something else. And I want to just give a few examples, and maybe that will hit home. So we have about 30 goshalas all around India, 30, 40 goshalas. It's a 24-hour operation. We have ambulances. We deal with traumatized animals that get hit on the road, those that have been trafficked and need surgery. We have doctors available. We also have about, 300, 500, 1,000 goshala workers that are actually spending most of their times full-time working with those cows, right? We as Sadhak and Down Foundation can't obviously spend time, but we need full-time workers that are there looking after the cows. We did a really, really interesting experiment. Nisha, you should hear this. We did a really interesting experiment, and we analyzed, of all the goshala workers that we had, and it was probably about 500 to 1,000, how many got sick because of COVID? How many were seriously ill and had to go to hospital? And how many died because of COVID in the last year? And you would be surprised to hear this, but not one person, not one of our Goshala workers was sick, had to go to hospital, or died.
So did it have something to do with the sense of the transmission of the sense of equanimity, peace, and the absolute bovine qualities which
it's the nurturing? Yeah, it's the nurturing, because you're doing something for the cow. That's why we say the cow is denu. It is the giver of bounties. So they are tirelessly working through COVID time, not protected. I mean, they don't follow the kind of yogic practices that we do, where we do jalneti and put ghee in and all sorts of other things.
Absolutely.
So in many ways, they're more exposed than Southwards. And so for us, that was quite a wake-up call. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about our Down Foundation people who also have not been affected, but these are workers on the front line, on the ground, right? And so that tells you there's something mysterious about the cow when you look after, when you nurture, looks after you.
And Suresh, you can feel it when you're petting a cow or feeding it. There's something really, there's a bonding, there's a therapeutic, because right from prehistoric times, man has bonded with the cow.
Yes, exactly. So even if you look at Kabir, who was the poet, it was only after he was licked on the forehead by a cow that he got the art of poetry. Until then, he didn't have that that kind of connection on
So do you recommend that as a poet, I must go and find a cow and be licked? It may improve the quality of my poetry.
Yes, I'm sure your poetry is good, but certainly, we can all take it to another level. I'll give you another example, because I think these examples, these kind of direct experiences are far better than, me, citing sort of, health benefits and, serotonin and other things that appear in the blood or, in your body, how you feel when you hug, which we all know there's a lot of scientific basis for it. But, I think just giving a few examples like this are much more, it brings it alive. So I'll give you another example. There was this individual who had tennis elbow, and he had gone to all the best orthopedic surgeons around the country. And, if you've ever had, tennis elbow, it's a very, very, very painful, musculoskeletal injury, which affects your tendons. And, it lasts for a long time. It's not something that disappears. And, he had tried talking to everyone, and he finally went to one of our sadhaks in Down Foundation, who's also a doctor. And this is what he said to him. He said, "What I'm going to say to you is not logical. It is not rational. I just want you to try it." And he said, "Just go and feed some cows on the roads." That was it. And, a few months later, he kind of bumped into that patient again and completely forgot about the conversation. And the patient said, "Miraculously, my tennis elbow problem just disappeared." And, as a doctor, his immediate observation was that does not happen quickly. If it had been, any other kind of injury, you could say, okay, fine, it just healed by itself. But something like tennis elbow doesn't go. He was convinced, and not only was he convinced, he managed to, he's even got his son to now start visiting Goshalas and feeding cows there. So again, that's another kind of example of where when you start doing these kind of things, when you start nurturing the cow, then you get these other kinds of benefits. So it's not just the byproducts. And by the way, just in terms of byproducts, it is not just about putting a cow in a shed and looking after it. You have to ensure, as Poonam was saying, that the cow is happy. It cannot be distressed. So it should not be under any pain. It should be fed good organic food. The milk should be fed to the calf before anyone takes any other milk. And it's only in those kinds of conditions can you be ensured that the byproducts, including the ghee and the milk, is actually good. And a lot of these places where you get milk, actually, you can't be sure of that. You can't be sure that the milk you're getting comes from a happy cow. It's very likely it'll be from a distressed cow where the calf has been taken away from the mother. and the calf has been denied the milk. So there are certain prerequisites to ensuring that you can even benefit from the byproducts, but abundance and how the cow blesses, that comes from, as you say, from hugging. And we in the foundation, it's just simple. You just go and just feed the cow. Simple as that. Feed a cow, adopt a cow. Something as simple as that. Those. We've got many examples. There was another one. There was a student who he was desperate to go and travel abroad to study, and he was not able to. So he was told, just start serving the cow, start feeding, and whisper into the cow's ear what your desire was. And miraculously, after 3 months, he got the funding to go and do his studies in America. Now, these are all just examples, but we have so many examples. Everything is by experience only. So we like to talk about stories like this because we find there are so many stories like this. So these, I think, Poonam, Nisha, these are kind of examples of how you should nurture the cow. Yeah, over to you. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Suresh, there was one recent incident with you also where you were driving.
Poonam, I must sensitize you. We are going to run out of time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I think maybe next time we'll take that thing. So now coming back to you, Nisha, I've heard that you've done a lot of planting drives and in Lavasa. And you even went to WADA to kick off the tree planting and reforestation. So where does this passion for planting trees come from? And how are you planning to take it forward under your Act Now platform?
So I must tell you, when I was in Paris, I was staying with friends who, the husband of my friend was part of the UNEP with Al Gore. And that's when my love for the environment and my understanding of where we are, when it wasn't the buzzword, when it wasn't fashionable to be an environmentalist, I was already seeing the video of Al Gore. I was already understanding where we are heading. And way back then, 18 years ago, it seemed frightening. So you can understand what's happening now. And right since then, the love for the environment, and I set up Act Now, the foundation, which has been set up by Nisha JamVwal. And Act Now works to plant trees, to create awareness. Today's program has been done by Act Now for the reason that we need to be the change. So yeah, it started with me planting 10 to 20 trees, trying to create microforests in our rural areas. But definitely, it's something that is not only about the environment, it's a genuine love for trees. So when you talk about hugging cows, the Tibetan way of therapy is to hug trees. And you can see that, all things that were said by the ancients are actually proving to be what is going to heal the earth right now. So yes, Poonam, I'm very, very fond of gardening. I'm very fond of greenery. I'm very fond of trees. I'm very fond of understanding how herbs and Ayurveda can be game changers with our health. COVID right now shows us so clearly that, we've gone wrong in many ways, and we need to retrace our steps, go back to ancient ways, stop using, chemicals, do rainwater harvesting, stop using detergents and fumigation, sprays, aerosols, air fresheners. These are things that, go against reforestation and foresting the world once again. And it's, of course, even leading to, the lack of the denuding of trees, Poonam, is also leading to, killing the biodiversity of the universe. So you already know that 12 mega species have been obliterated. and we are at risk of losing 62% of the known species to man. So, it's planting trees is directly connected to biodiversity and maintaining an ecosystem, because the ecosystem is not sufficient to support various species. And denuding trees is what's leading to, this arid atmosphere and of course, we already know something that even Suresh touched upon, constantly interfering, being happy like tourists, taking pictures of, animals, interfering with their space. We need to give them space. We can't, enter their space. We need to stay away. We need to give them privacy. We need to allow them to live in their forests, and this is not happening. We're building forest lodges all over the world. You started this entire conversation, Poonam, by saying that man is a very entitled creature and he owns the earth. That's not what it should be like. We need to live in harmony with all species in the world. We don't own the earth. We don't own the universe. But this arrogant attitude, I want to, end by saying this attitude of ownership and arrogance and entitlement has to go. Because animals and trees and plants don't have a voice, does not mean that they're not able to communicate. There are ways they communicate, like the man who wanted the loan, which we just spoke of, who got the loan because he used to spend time nurturing cows in the goshala. We need to understand that we need to develop more empathy, plant more trees, and change the way we look at the universe.
Thank you so much. You're right, Nisha. This is the over-consumerism which is killing the environment, and we need to go back to our roots and see and understand how our ancestors used to live. That was the best way ahead. So last question to you, Suresh, a quick one. There's a trend of cow cuddling in West. So you've already spoken about it in a bit. So just if you could say, since you are in UK, so how do you see it? Like, do you see people coming in to goshalas from all over and doing this?
Yeah, no, certainly. And we do have people in the UK who actually, they come and contact us, and it's not because they want to learn yoga. They are actually happening to be going to India, and they want to spend time in our goshalas and just spend some time there. So we certainly do get a lot of people who want to do that. I mean, they come for many reasons. They're going for treks and traveling around India, but they also, as part of their itinerary, they want to include spending some time in a goshala, which is kind of interesting. But I think the cow hugging, I think it's a good idea. I can't, obviously because of COVID, humans have kind of lost their human touch. So, they've realized that, hugging a cow, hugging an animal is something that can make them feel, more at peace. I mean, we have given so many traditions from India. So, whether it's yoga, meditation, vegetarianism, non-violence, these are thoughts, these are ideas, these are thoughts, which have gone round. So cow hugging is something that I would say that in Dhyan Foundation, we do cow hugging. We may not call it cow hugging, we just nurture the cow. So I think on that, that would be what I would say, around cow hugging. Just one small point, Poonam, I want to make. I was saying earlier about the Brahman breed. I mean, people should understand that the Indian breed of cow is genetically different than all other breeds of cow. It's because of its hump that it's able to, collect all this pranic energy, and why the products that come from it, especially the ghee. So you have to be careful when you're buying ghee. You have to make sure that the ghee is coming from a cow which has not been disturbed. You must also make sure it's coming from an Indian breed. In the UK, what we have is we have a lot of people who are buying ghee, but it's coming from a Jersey cow. And the Jersey cow is not the same as the Desi breed or the Angus breed or any of these non-Indian breeds. They are mutations. There are mutations that happened over thousands of years and creates all sorts of other complications in the body. So you should always look for ghee or milk which has come from a Desi cow, and that's also true in India as well. So I just wanted people to understand that it's more than just cow. It is something about the the species that comes from India, which is mysterious.
Thank you so much for enlightening us today so much about cows. And Nisha, so I would like to conclude the session here. And
Poonam, before you conclude, I just want to thank Rahul Roy. Rahul found Suresh's point on Clive very interesting. Thank you for joining us, Rahul. Ruchi Kale, you liked the observation about the environment that we made. Thank you. Varsha Saxena, thank you for being with us. Simi Ghai and Ruchi Kale, thank you, Ruchi, for your compliment. Roshni Mohan and Anita Marwa, Sahana Hegde. Sahana, thank you, and I hope to bring more of this to you very soon. And thank you for saying that, it's going to change the way you see things. Yes, the importance of cows and nurture and nature. Did you know that? Suresh, that they some goshalas in India even play Mozart, Strauss, and Chopin to to relax the cow and create that atmosphere of the happy cow. It's contrary to my trepidations, contrary to my fears with our technical glitches as we started out. It's been a very fun session. We've had a huge viewership. And thank you all for being with us. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm meeting Suresh for the first time. Suresh, I hope you look me up when you're here and I can introduce you to happy stray dogs. Happy cows.
Absolutely, Nisha. It was I was very enlightened by learning a lot about what you're doing, and
thank you.
learned a lot about the environment.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Poonam, for leading all the questions and leading us to come out with all that we are holding within. It's a very happy place to be in, where all of us agree that we need to save and protect our environment. And we start with the most bovine, the most gentle, and the most kind creature known to man, which is the cow. It's been a lovely session. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.